Welcome to the Wise and Happy Life podcast, where ancient wisdom meets modern science, and mindfulness, philosophy, and happiness practices blend with neuroscience, compassion, and common sense. Hosted by Bob Martin, meditation mentor, happiness coach, trial lawyer, and entrepreneur. This podcast explores how to live with grace, presence, and purpose in a complex world.
Hello, good people, and welcome to another episode of A Wise and Happy Life. And as you know, I like to always mention a little something to set the theme for our guest today. And I want to just take a moment and talk about my dogs. God, I love my dogs. And if my kids are tuning into this, I really don't mean to embarrass you or say that I have any less love for you, but I got to tell you, I would lay down my life for my kids. I would. I don't know that I would lay down my life for my dogs, but in terms of the emotional response, the dogs win. Sorry, kids. It's just, they are just so loving. So, our guest today is Nita Sweeney, and I'm talking about dogs because dogs are very important to her life, but they are not what this podcast is going to be about. She's a lawyer, she's a writer, she is a marathoner, which is like at an age, she'll tell us what age that she took up the idea of getting out and running. She's written books. She combines meditation, movement, thoughts, and dogs all together to be just an enchanting and wonderful human being. It is so nice to have you, Nita. And not only that, but we share something else. We're both recovering lawyers, I think.
Yes, that's the best way to put it, because I've been retired for a while now from the
Uh-huh.
law. But we were talking earlier. First, thank you for the introduction. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We were talking earlier before we started recording about the fact that when you've been trained as a lawyer, you're sort of once a lawyer, always a lawyer. There's just that mindset. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny about that because a lot of times, you'll get into I'm not going to say it's an argument, but you'll have an exchange of ideas. And if your idea seems to have more substance than the other guys, they always wind up saying, "Oh, well, you're a lawyer." Like
Yeah,
somehow that gives me some magical ability, But we're all lawyers, aren't we? I mean, we
we all,
all, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, we all have, I'd say, areas of expertise. Our life experience can train us in ways that, you have life experience I don't have. Everybody else has life experience, and then the things we have learned in life. So yeah, in a way, we're all. I just think we're all experts. Law is such a weird, kind of odd thing, a odd way of thinking, a very
Hmm.
strange way to tell a story. A
Oh,
lawsuit is a very
well,
strange way to tell a story.
yeah, that's true. But if you think about the 14-year-old girl who is trying to convince her folks to let her out 2 hours later on a Friday night, she's being
Mhm.
a lawyer.
She's definitely arguing her case. I would agree. I have to agree there that, yeah, that would be, yeah, I see what you're saying. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we all have we have desires and motivations to get things and to avoid other things.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that skill set definitely comes in
Come
often,
handy.
comes in very
So,
handy.
so tell us a little bit about you and how you went down this path that eventually wound up with doing marathons.
Yeah.
So, how did you
So,
get there?
um, that's in my first book, actually. So I was having a rough time. I have some mental illness. I mean, I'll just call it what it is. I'm bipolar 2. I have chronic depression, anxiety. And so I'm always managing those. And when life happens, it kind of hits me extra hard. I have lots of help. I've done really well for somebody with those things. And I had a year where 7 people and a cat that I loved died.
Hmm.
And 3 of those people were my 24-year-old niece, my father-in-law and my mother.
Mm.
And then it was my niece's cat that died, which I
Oh.
adored. And then, 4 other people in a 11-month period. And so that was one of the following year, especially, um, was just really rough. And I was sitting on the sofa. There may have been bonbons, I don't remember. Um, but I definitely was not using my best coping tools. I was just, sometimes you get to a place where the overwhelm happens, and you do your best. And that's what I
Mhm.
was doing. And so I was scrolling social media, and I came across a post by a high school friend who said, "Call me crazy, but this running is getting to be fun." And Bob, let me tell you that the words run and fun did not fit in the same sentence in my world at that time. I think I was 49,
Uh-huh.
rounding the edge to 50. I had not been athletic. I dabbled, we had the mini trampoline in the basement. We'd had a treadmill at one point. I'd taken classes. I dabbled in stuff. When I was in high school, I was in marching band. And this friend was similarly not sports minded. She did, we both rode horses. So that is a sport and that is athletic, but it wasn't running. I mean, it just didn't seem. And so I watched her. I commented on her posts and I watched her, and I got curious about it because it was somebody I knew, and somebody I not just I knew, but somebody I identified with. We were about the same age. At that time, I was a lot larger. We were about the same size, similarly not athletic. And she served as um, an example for me, a mentor, kind of unknowingly. I told her about it much later. And it took a while for me to go and look up the training plan that she did. But that's really how it started. That planted this little seed, and that grew. And eventually I got miserable enough and curious enough, which it took those two things. I'd tried a lot of other things. And so I looked up the training plan, and this is important. The training plan said 60 seconds of jogging. And I swear, if it had said a minute or 4 minutes or anything else, and if it had also said running, I probably would have, closed the laptop and just gone back to bed or whatever I was doing. But there was something about that 60 seconds and the jogging. So it was an interval that seemed doable and an activity that seemed doable. Because I couldn't imagine running, because I thought of sprinting. That's what I thought when you said running, and that's not what we do at all. And so I eventually, that's where the dog comes in. I eventually leashed up our dog. We had a yellow Labrador, and took him down to this secluded area near our house. It's a ravine where the houses are all set way back because there's a floodplain. And I took a digital kitchen timer. I was probably in pink sweatpants and trail shoes. Velcro sneakers. I don't know. It's whatever I had in the back of the closet because I hadn't been athletic at all for many years. And yeah, and I stood there for a while until the dog finally got up and went and peed on a shrub because he was bored. And then, I hit the timer and I jogged for 60 seconds and didn't die. And that's kind of the rest is history. But I think the important point is that I saw someone else that I identified with doing something that seemed to me maybe a little ridiculous, but also kind of impossible. And I watched her for a while. She didn't know. I mean, she knew I was, at a girling on her posts, things like that, but she didn't know what was going through my head or how dark my mind had gotten by then. And it was a very small interval that seemed doable, something that seemed very accessible, and I could do it in private in a way that would not feel embarrassing or, if I failed, no one would care except even the dog wouldn't, especially the dog
Right.
wouldn't care.
Especially the
The
dog.
dog's like, we got
Especially the dog.
outside. We're so happy. My tail's wagging. I don't
Yeah,
care.
right.
What are we doing? What are we doing? And then eventually, I told my sister, once I continued with the plan because I really enjoyed it. I got outside and I was slow. I still am slow, but I eventually told her, and it was her daughter who had died, and she died of cancer, and there was a 5K, and for to raise money for cancer research. It was osteosarcoma, and she said, "Oh, there's this 5K. We should do it." And I went, "Oh, no, 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 no. I am a private runner. We are not leaving the ravine. We are not going out of the neighborhood." I just like went way, way back. Um, and then I thought about it, and I remembered my niece and how she had suffered, and thought about the other, children and adults and dogs and all kinds of people get osteosarcoma. Um, and thought, kind of get over yourself, sort of. I mean, I don't mean
Hmm.
to be cruel to myself. I try not to speak harshly to myself, but I kind of did say, Nita, you can pull yourself up to this, and that's what I did. I went to this race with her and some other family members and some friends, and it completely blew my mind about the running community, because I had it. You see the Boston Marathon, you see the New York City, you see all these people in the spandex and they're tiny little people, and they're young and they're strong, and they were there. Okay. There were, if there were 100 people there were 10 of them. But the rest of them were people just like me. They were in all kinds of gear. They were all shapes, sizes, abilities. And it was very welcoming. It was a bit like a party atmosphere. And we were raising money for a good cause. And so that's when I really got hooked. That's when I
Uh-huh.
really got hooked, is when I got out of the ravine, out of my comfort zone, and tried something. But again, I had to be pulled to it. Somebody couldn't say, "Oh, you should do this." That's not going to work for me. I had to have something inside me that pulled me toward it. And then that's when things really started taking off. And that's all in the first book that I wrote, Depression
And
Hates a Target. Yeah,
talking about the first book, but I just want to reflect on something. Yeah, it had to be something that pulled you to it, but there is a certain kind of stick to itiveness that's required for it, because running in its own way is something that we could call a practice, right?
absolutely.
And you have that shows up in other places in your life. It does, doesn't it? I mean,
Absolutely.
you meditate, which is a practice. You write, which is a practice. And so uh, let's just chat for a moment. I want you to talk about writing, because I know that you've tied writing and meditating and mental health all together, and that writing is a great practice, for emotional stability and the like. But before we get into those things, let's just talk a little bit about this this quality of sticking with something, because I, I often see some of my students in my meditation classes. It's like they quit just before the miracle's about to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes, when I'm feeling lost, literally I'm in my car and I'm feeling lost and I'm just about to give up. If I just stay with it a little longer, I'll find out where I am. And there's that little kind of it seems like there's always a little place where you get to, where you come to this choice of, am I going to quit or am I going to stick to it? And some people make one choice and some people make the other. What do you think it is within you that has brought you to the ability to say, no, I'm going to stick with it, and got over the hump and found the joy?
Well, in addition to a highly critical father, it's probably my brain wiring. So let's just say, no, I do think though that I when I talk about it, sometimes I forget the fact that we are not all wired the same.
Hmm.
And that's why I talk about what pulled me toward things, because I often think when somebody, gives up just before the miracle, quits before the miracle, um, that they didn't find the thing that would pull them through that. And I do think that some people do have an extra kind of bit of oomph. I think anybody who went through law school, just frankly, maybe I'm tooting both of our horns here, but you have to have a certain something, tenacity, stubbornness, hard headedness,
Yeah.
something that the average bear might not have. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah.
remember walking into the bookstore on the first day, and there were all these piles of books that were as tall as I was,
Mhm.
including Black's Law Dictionary, which,
Yes.
is like
Yes.
2 feet
Mhm.
thick.
Yeah, it's
And I looked at them, and right then and there, I wanted to turn around and walk out of that bookstore, but no, something said, load them
yeah,
in the car, take them on home.
right. You'll figure it out. And I think that's the other thing, I joked about my critical father. He was mostly self-critical. He wasn't actually critical of us. But I watched him and my mother both um, do incredible things. My mom, in her 50s, became a third class radio operator. I mean, she got her license, and there were all these people in their 30s, and she was the oldest one in the room. And she studied and studied and studied. And I watched my father. He was originally he worked for the phone company, but I just watched him do all kinds of things, whether it was things with his hands, projects at work, where he would just come up against something and he would just back up and try again, back up and try again. And I think that I'm sure there's some genetic coding of call it tenacity, call it hard headedness, whatever you want. But that it can be a skill. And but I watch them do it, and so it's definitely. But what I want to say about that though is I often take for granted that I have that trait that not everyone has. And so I would say, whenever you hear somebody's up on a stage say, well, just do this, they have forgotten that they have a skill that's almost like a fish, and how a fish can't see water, that they have a skill that not everyone else in the room has. And I do that all the time. It's like, well, actually, you just do this. Well, it's easy for me, maybe, or maybe I've trained myself to do it. But um but so so my thing is to find the way for that person. So a lot of times, like, I do some coaching, and and one of the first things we do is just some personality tests, not to put people in a box, but to say, okay, what are your drivers? What are your motivations? What is the fear you might be, stepping away from? What is the thing that's going to pull you forward? What's the thing, what's your worst fear? What's your big dream? That kind of stuff. So we really get to know them, and can tailor a plan, so that they can be successful at hopefully
Hmm.
what they want to do.
Hmm.
But so sometimes when I talk about running, it wasn't the running part is not easy at all, but the I've set a goal for myself and I shall accomplish it is is easier for me maybe than a lot of other people, because I'm just motivated by um, certificates suitable for framing, medals. I'm motivated by the kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
no, it's
success,
cool.
accomplishment, and
It's
not
cool.
everybody is. Some people just don't care about that at all, and so that's why, for some people, the charity cause is the thing. For some
Hmm.
people, helping, like writing a book, maybe they will only be able to write a book if they can find an audience they feel they can help. And so knowing that
Or
about
there's a
them,
subject matter that just it drives them and
right, that's a different,
motivates them.
right, that's a different
Yeah.
thing. Their natural curiosity, they just have to find everything out about this subject and share it with the world. That's a
Yeah.
different kind of person. And so
Yeah,
finding that out, that's like the magic for me. And I
yeah.
love that. I love that kind of quirky stuff. So that
It it is often, I'll be speaking with A about meditation, and B overhears us and goes, "Oh, meditation. Yeah, I really need that. That's something I really need." And then I say, "Well, would you be willing to practice 10 minutes a day?" And they go, "Well, I don't know if I have 10 minutes a day." Um, or they say, "Well, I really can't afford a course right now," and time and money always seems to get in the way. But I can't ever help saying to folks when they mention time and money, it's really not time and money, it's really priority. Because if your favorite uncle, died on the other coast, you'd find the time and the money to go to visit with the family.
right.
And so what you're saying, I think, is what I'm hearing you say, is that people need to find that which brings themselves about to the conclusion that this thing that I'm going to do has priority in my life.
Right. They have to find a reason that they value. And it has
Hmm.
to be their value. It can't be my value. It can't be your. It has to be their value system, their understanding of what's important and meaningful. And when you find that, then you can magic can happen. I mean, it really. I keep talking about magic. I'm not sure why, but it really. I mean, it's powerful. It is. I mean, you've seen it. You work
Yeah,
with
yeah,
people. You know
yeah,
how it
yeah,
is. You
yeah,
have these people, and often the people that I think are the last ones to get it will get it, and then these other people I think, oh, they're a sure bet. Yeah, no. So
yeah. Right.
I
It,
don't know
it
everything for sure.
it's so true, and often people are battling narratives that they have. I remember one situation where somebody was going on and on about who they were, and I'm listening to it. It just sounded so wasn't who they were, and I just stopped and I said, wait, is that really accurate? Is that really true about you? And they stopped. And Nita, it's one of those rare moments, where they stopped and their eyes opened and they go, no, no. It's just like the words kept coming out of my mouth, but they're not really true.
Mhm.
And so sometimes our narratives make us think that things that are important to us aren't. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. But
Yeah,
I
well,
want to
that's
talk to you.
right.
I want you to tell us about writing and what you found, the miracle that you found in writing.
Oh, the thing about writing is that a lot of times it takes over and you learn things about yourself that you didn't know, or you learn things about the world that you didn't know, or you learn things about other people that you didn't know. And I had the privilege, the honor, really, and the privilege of working with a woman by the name of Natalie Goldberg, who is a Zen practitioner and created she really coined the term, because I'm sure that people were doing it before, but she gets the credit for seeing it for what it was, a thing called writing practice, which is a little bit different than journaling. Sometimes you enter it through journaling, but it's about capturing sensory detail and then capturing your thoughts as they happen, and coming back to the present in your writing. And what has happened for me was I discovered, you can call them maybe obsessions, but themes that were important to me, and topics that were important to me, and truths about myself and my life that I might not have said out loud, that I could put on the page and maybe read to one other person. And so I actually taught that practice myself for a number of years to other people. It's sort of pre-writing, because sometimes there'll be things on the page when you're doing writing practice that you can type them up and they'll be part of something you might want to work with again. But a lot of times it's as if you're kind of digesting your experience, where something has happened, or you've had some thoughts, or you've read something, and you're going to it at a deeper level. You're examining it on the page at a deeper level. And yeah, the awarenesses that happen. There's in I know in a lot of the 12-step recovery, they do lists of, it's a writing exercise, and it's a similar thing where you put the pen to the paper and you learn things that you wouldn't necessarily, it's not like you're hiding them from yourself intentionally, but you wouldn't necessarily even know unless you put them down. So the writing practice has been really a very freeing process for me. It's very much like meditation, because we do it in a timed period, so that you are only writing for maybe a 10-minute interval, let's say. And so your brain, some people's brains, no, but would say, oh my gosh, I can't, I don't want to write for too long, or I don't want to have to do this forever. I mean, there's lots of reasons that you might use a time period, but it's very much like a meditation practice, where you just sit or you walk for a particular period of time. And so your mind it can settle down a little bit, and it can realize, oh, okay, we're just going to do this for a little while. It's kind of like a little experiment. We're just going to do this and see what happens. And that helps people drop the judgment. It helps people get really much, in the moment, sometimes of what's happening right now, but often it's in the moment of a memory, where they've
Hmm.
put themselves back in the memory, or they envision a future, but it's a very specific you're creating a scene about what that might look like. So it's very concrete. And then, you can step back and theorize about things too. But often we're missing the details. We're missing that present moment experience. And so, yeah, I have found a lot of freedom, and I did that for many years without a real goal of publishing. I mean, I always had that kind of in the back of my head. And then eventually I stumbled on a story that I really wanted to tell that felt like it was book length. And that was in 2004. And I'm still working on that book on and off over all these years. I got 4 books published. That's not one of them yet. Hopefully next year. We're hoping next year it'll come out. But yeah, but I was honored to work with Natalie and be her assistant for not quite 10 years, about 9 years. I lived in Taos for a while, where she lived at the time. And yeah, I really learned. She feels very much like a master to me, and I learned a lot from her. I'm very
Mm.
grateful.
So that's writing, and then, well, I guess it was also through your connection to her being a Zen practitioner that you began to incorporate some of those mindful principles into the writing. And
Actually, that happened before. That was one
uh-huh.
of the things that drew me to her. I love telling the story. You're supposed to ask the question, Bob. You're supposed to ask. So, how did you start meditating?
Oh, so how
Uh,
did you start meditating?
there was this guy.
There was this
There
guy.
was this guy. Yeah, I love that question. Anyway, so yeah, I was dating a man who is now my husband of more than 30 years. And I think it was maybe our third date. And we were in my house. We just finished dinner. And he said, "Hey, do you want to sit?" And I said, "What? Do I want to what?" I mean, I had no idea what he was talking about. And he meant, let's meditate. And so he set the microwave timer for 5 minutes. And he said, do your best not to fidget, and just see if you can follow your breath. Sorry about that. That should turn that off. So he said, do your best not to fidget, and just try to notice your breath. And so, of course, I fidgeted, but and 5 minutes felt like forever. But that was sort of the beginning. And I really liked the guy, still do, all these years later. And I saw that there was a sense of calm in that first session. It was very short. My sense of calm was very short, because not only was I self-conscious about him, I was, gasping for, I mean, I wasn't probably gasping for air, but it sort of felt like that, because I didn't pay attention to my breath that much. Um, and, but as I continued, I started to notice a sense of calm and more focus. And then I had it wasn't really a back injury, but a lot of back pain. I mean, I have been sitting, at a computer for most of my life, for a long time. And he introduced me to John Kabat-Zinn,
Ah,
who has the mindfulness-based stress reduction program.
mhm.
And he had, okay, really going to age myself here. He had cassette tapes of that program. And so I listened to those cassette tapes. Um, and it was essentially mindfulness practice. It was kind of some postures that helped with pain, but it was mindfulness. And
Mhm.
so then I went to I went to like a half day silent retreat, and then a weekend, and it just sort of gradually crept up on me, basically because I was kind of following this guy around. But I saw the benefits, especially once I had the pain situation, and found some relief in uh, the way I related to the pain. So the pain eventually did change,
Wait,
but the
say that
way I
again. Say
okay,
that
so
again. That
yeah,
was that was way important.
yeah. So, and that's why I said it. So I the practice, especially with John Kabat-Zinn's way of training, helped me change the way I related to the
To
pain.
pain.
So instead of reacting to it, tensing up, turning away, trying to push and pull on it, make it go away, I got curious about what is pain? What is this? Where do I feel it? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it sharp? Is it that, you're kind of asking yourself questions much more slowly than that. Um, and being with it, and I couldn't always be with it for very long. sometimes I would do this thing that was half an hour, and I could be with it for a minute and a half of that half an hour, and that's just the way it was. That's just the way it was, and that was enough. And he was very reassuring. These tapes were very reassuring, and I could see that when I could open up to it and not fight it, it changed. And my experience of it changed. That's actually it did change, but my experience of it changed, and I no longer felt, the word we use is suffering, but I no longer felt that push and pull and like a victim to the pain anymore. I felt as if, I don't know, it was just, it was okay that it was there, even though I didn't like it. And I think that's the
Right.
thing. We think, in meditation, we hear people talk about it, well, I can't meditate because I can't shut off my thoughts. Well, that's a really good thing, because if you do, that means you're dead.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, like, I'm really glad you can't shut up your thoughts. That's not a good thing. We don't like that. But there's so many misconceptions. So that's the other thing I do, is I try to do a lot of myth busting around what meditation, at least the type of meditation that I do, which is primarily mindfulness practice. And like I said, I do some Zen too.
Yeah, I think that the point you bring up is so important because I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of pain in life, and there's emotional pain. Your heart gets broken, your knee gets broken, your flesh gets cut. You have a booger in your nose and it's bothering you and you can't get it out because you're in public. I mean, there's just all kinds of pain that we have, and it's not about not having the pain. It's about getting stronger and learning to tolerate pain better,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and
Um,
it's not white knuckling. It's not a it's not a, what am I trying to say? It's not a force thing. It's the opposite. And that's what's so counterintuitive for most
mhm,
people. They don't
right.
understand that the releasing actually brings the relief, that it's because pain's scary. I mean,
Hmm.
most people, I mean, none of us like pain, really. Well, maybe there's some people do. We don't, that's probably another podcast too, but we don't talk about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, no,
But
I got to tell
yeah.
you, I got to tell you something about this. I just had one of my students. The way that I get to teach meditation is there's this really, really great digital infrastructure that was developed at Duke, which creates an app that really acts as a walkie-talkie between me and my students. And every day they practice and every day they reflect on the app, but their reflection comes to my dashboard and I get to respond to their reflection and it goes back to their app. And so we're communicating on a daily basis. So I really get to see the progress of the change in their thinking, and they get little tweaks every day so they don't develop any bad habits and we can take care of misconceptions and stuff. Anyway, one of my students, are you familiar with Gatha? Thich Nhat
Hmm.
Hanh's Gatha
Yeah.
idea? Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of his couplets is breathing in, I calm my body and my mind, breathing out, I smile.
Hmm.
And she reflected in her log. She was practicing this Gatha, and she noted in her, so every time I'm coming up to that one, I always get nervous because I can't really calm my body and my mind. I say that I calm my body and my mind, but I don't calm my body and my. And she just, I can't, I'm not coming in. I'm just getting more anxious. And I'm supposed to be calmer, and I'm getting more anxious and everything else. And then finally, when I get to the next one, breathing out, I smile. Then I finally feel calm. And so we were able to get into this wonderful conversation about how wanting to become calm itself is anxiety producing.
Right.
Trying to be calm actually makes you uncalm. And it's not by trying to do it or forcing it, it's by allowing it. And then when she got to the I smiled, she kind of let it go and she allowed herself to be calm. And she, it, she really got what allowing meant, and that's that, from meditation and teaching it, that it's very hard for people to understand what it means to allow a feeling or allow something, just to be. but she got it. She got it,
That's
and I
that's
was
wonderful. Yeah,
yay,
that's fantastic. That's why we do it, folks. That's why we do it right there. Those
right
moments.
there.
Yep,
Uh huh.
that's it right there. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And that sounds like a really powerful app. That I love that. The fact that the student can express what's going on, and then you can reflect back. I mean, that's very intimate and very um, intense in a way, and that's good. So
Yeah.
sounds
I
very
mean,
powerful.
even in a group setting, we meet as a group once a week, and people exchange ideas, and they find out that the same things that were troubling me are troubling other people.
Yeah.
But then all during the week, it's all one on one
Mhm.
with each student, and so it is a very powerful way of moving forward. But but let's talk about your books.
My favorite topic.
Your favorite topic. I mean, you.
Well, one of many, but yeah,
Well, first
yeah.
of all, first of
So
all, you've got a downloadable free book with the three
tools.
tools of happiness, right?
Yeah, three tools for a happier, healthier mind.
There
So
you go.
I'm not saying life is going to be happy, but you can work with
Right.
your mind around it. Yeah,
Hmm. And so you took from your experience, you took movement, your experience with running and getting out and moving your body, which is so important. You talked about meditation, and you talked about writing as three great tools. And so, folks, if you want to get a little review of what we've been talking about today, you can go to Nita's website and just download this wonderful, short little infographic almost, but
kind of.
kind
Yeah,
of a,
it's just a few
yeah,
pages. It's maybe
it's just a few
might be
pages, but it's very helpful.
maybe 8 pages with
Yeah,
pictures and such. Yeah,
very helpful. But
good.
you also wrote four books, right?
I have. Yes, I have written 4 books.
S-
Um,
So there's one book that's still in creation from 2004.
yeah, we hope that'll be 5, but yeah. So we'll see. We'll
So
see.
tell us about these books.
So the first one I mentioned when you asked me about starting running, because it's that story. It's about me doing something I thought was impossible and finding that it really helped my mental health, even though people had been telling me for years to just kind of try to break a sweat once in a while. And I went, nah. Um, and they were right. Spoiler, they were right.
Hmm.
So that's the first book. It's called Depression Hates a Moving Target. And that really can apply to anything. You don't have to run marathons. You don't have to do anything extreme. You can, do laps around your sofa. Heck, I don't know. Um, Pickleball's all the thing here in Central Ohio right now. I don't play, but a lot of my friends do. They find that lovely. And yeah, so that book. Then my she was the acquisitions editor at the time, but she eventually became the publisher of the press that published my first 3 books. And she and I came up with a writing journal.
Mm.
It's titled "You Should Be Writing," and her name is Brenda Knight. And the two of us, she just had this idea. She's been in publishing a very long time, and she'd heard so much really horrible advice. And so she wanted to have a book of quotations that were inspiring and instructional of good advice. And so that's what it is. It's kind of a blank book, but at the top of each page, there's a quotation from an author that you may have heard of, an author you might not have heard of, that either inspires or instructs. And they're organized by topics. So there are kind of chapters in the book, but they're different topics like giving back, structure, voice, kind of the turn of what we can learn from poets, the way phrases can turn and the sound of language. So there's just different. It's I think it's 150 quotes, something like that. It's not horribly long, but it's a good just a book to have where you can either use it to write in or just use the quotes. I think they have it in ebook form too. And yeah, so that was the second one. And then the third one really resulted from me very quickly. So I had been meditating for, 20 years by the time I started running, maybe not 20, maybe 15. But I'd already been meditating a long time before I started this whole running business. And I very quickly realized that I could meditate while I was running, which again, that's one of those, oh, just meditate while you run things. Not everybody can do it. And so I wanted to explain how I did it and offer some very specific instructions to teach other people to do that with really any movement form. I have friends who play disc golf and they meditate while they play disc golf. I have one friend who does Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and he meditates while he's doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. There's another example in the book of someone who's sailing and the feel, and you just pick something to focus on. That's the key. It's really actually very simple. You pick something to focus on, and then you do the
My,
practice. And there's more instructions. I have like an 8-step process, but that book, I'm really proud of that one because it has a whole bunch of footnotes in it. Because I tried to get other authorities, other voices. Most of the examples in that book are me running with my dog, but there are other. There's a section of kind of make it your own where you can choose your movement form, and there's even a section of but Nita, I don't have a movement form about how to help you recognize that you are moving because you are, and now also maybe to find a movement form that is more more exertion than what you might be doing now. So that's that third one, and then the fourth
and then
one,
my favorite.
yeah, yeah, and this is I said the third one was my favorite. I probably worked the hardest on the third one because it is so footnote intensive. It has just
Hmm.
a lot packed in of other people's knowledge and expertise and wisdom. But yeah, my actual favorite is the little one. It's a little. I have it. It's way back there, but I have it. It's just a little book.
365.
Yeah, it's called A Daily Dose of Now, and it's 365 mindfulness practices for living in the moment. And that book took me a long time to write because I had to come up with 366 quotes that fit into the theme. I had to write 366 little tiny essays and then come up with 366 practices to fill the book because you need leap day. You have to
That's right.
include
You
leap
have
day.
to
So you
include
always
leap
have to
day.
have April 29th in there too. And it has a very robust index. In fact, it might be a little over the top, the index. Um, quite frankly, I had a lot of fun putting it together. But yeah, and
I
it's
just
real
thought of
simple.
something funny. I saw something funny. So the OCD reader of your book would get to February 29 and then spend an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out whether or not they, since there wasn't a leap year, should they readjust all of the numbers or should it be okay or is it all
Oh,
right just to skip?
oh,
Do you know that?
I hope they're not lost in some hallway somewhere doing that. If that's you, call me. I can help you out.
Right.
Or call
You
Bob.
know
We'll help
that
you
you,
out.
you know that OCD is the wrong terminology,
Yeah,
right?
it really is. And
It
we shouldn't be joking about it because
No, it's
it is a very
CDO.
serious thing. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
CDO. It's
Okay.
CDO.
Oh, right. Oh, I get it. Okay. We're still joking about it. Oh, sorry.
I'm
But
joking
seriously,
about it.
it is. I don't like to joke about that kind of stuff because it is, we throw terms around like, oh, she's bipolar, or oh, I'm
Yeah,
just
right,
being
right.
OCD right now. And the truth is, OCD especially is a
It's
very
it's very
painful
difficult.
illness, and it's very difficult to treat. And it. I mean, people have great success with it too, but it's yeah. We don't want to make light of it too much. But
Yeah.
yes, yeah, you're right. It
But
should be.
I'll tell you,
You're right. It should be
people.
CDO. You're absolutely right.
Okay, guys, we're running out of time, and so Nita, I really thank you, and I just want to say that I want to thank you for your service as well, because I know that you have found a way that has been helpful in your life in overcoming some pretty intense obstacles. And I know that, I know your heart, and I know that all of this work and everything that you've done has been to try to give back, the things that you've learned that lead us to having a wise and happy life. So I thank you for the time and the effort that you spend and the heart it takes to share it all.
Well, thanks to you,
Um,
Bob. Thank you very much because the same goes back to you. Same goes back to you. And thanks for
Thank you.
having me. This has been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
yeah, yeah. So everybody, her website is go ahead, tell us your website.
It's nitasweeney.com. It's just my name, NITASWEENEY.com.
And it'll be in the show notes. So, go check it out and at least download that, three tools of happy living and look at her books. And thank you, Nita. And we will see you, as they say, on the other side.